So that's him. So, okay, we're going to
I
get
went through a
started.
little bit of
So
life.
let me just do a quick introduction. Good
Okay, go
morning,
ahead.
Mahatayaba, everyone. Welcome to NDCC's Spring 2026 Black CoopNomics Academy. And on the screen today, we're here for the People, Culture, and Demographic Management course in Baltimore, Maryland on April 12th, 2026. And the course instructor is none other than I I heard Sister Tamiko said DC, but I thought you were a Baltimore native, so I'm sorry. But Calvin Croxton is rooted in a long-term community engagement, direct service, and organizational leadership. And I just wanted to take this moment to introduce him as he is going to speak with us and facilitate the course for the next 2 hours. So now I'll let you and our board member, who's also co-host, Tomiko, is online, and I'll hand it over and pass it to you guys.
All right,
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you so much. And you be more, bro, right? You be more, brother Calvin.
Oh, yes, yes, I
Yeah,
am.
yeah, he be more. I was talking
Yes,
about DC. I
sir.
get hyped when I talk about my DC. That's all, y'all. But I live in be more,
Oh,
okay?
okay.
Yeah, all
But
good. We love y'all too.
hey, right. Okay. So today's course is mentioned by our wonderful administrator, coach, facilitator, Giselle. Oh my OMG, who makes us look good. Okay. Need to give her a double raise. Mr. Ron saying what? But who takes care of us on vacay on with us
Yeah.
today. But I'm very excited to be a part. I'm board member, like I said, recent board member, and so I'm joining the classes just to really get more profound, deeper understanding, overstanding of cooperatives, and also just to insert, welcome y'all to the NDCC family. So today's course, people, culture, and democratic management. I'm be listening to you, brother Calvin, because you know I'm a culture anthropologist. I'm interested in what you guys say. But anyway, today's course is going to explore how culture, communication, governance, and cooperative management practices shape our cooperative success. Today, Brother Calvin should be teaching y'all skills as far as decision making, conflict engagement resolution, culture building, accountability, and culturally responsive leadership. Now, that's very important considering we're talking about starting co ops, businesses, and dealing with teams of people. And you know, with Black folks, we kind of a unique type of people because we got various types of lived experiences we've been through. And so today we're going to get that from Brother Kevin. I already feel his energy, but also not how we can build these groups, but also manage them well and sustain them. And I'm going to turn over to you, Brother Calvin. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful introduction.
I
And
told you I'm a good hype person now.
yeah, pleased to be here with you guys. Before I get into it, also thanks to the Network for Developing Conscious Communities. It has been cool to be connected with you guys. I've been aware for probably a few years now, but it's nice to get this information that's been like genuinely useful to me, even while I'm out there trying to figure out how to get things done. And so that's what kept me apart, had me coming out in person, and eventually here now. So just grateful. But I will share my screen once more, and we can hop into this. There we
Is it
go.
okay if I introduce myself?
Please do.
Yes,
Okay.
Please
yes,
do.
sis. Yes. Come on, fam.
Okay. So I'm gonna come off camera for just a second, and when I pull over, I'll get back. So
Bring your
my
godly
name
self in here. Go ahead, girl.
is my name is Nkenja Yassine. I am a Baltimore native. I am a serial entrepreneur, and I met Mr. Ron Hance many years ago and believed in the work that he does. However, I was in such a transition of my own businesses and figuring things out that I just didn't have the time or space at the time. But I knew that cooperatives was something that I really wanted to learn about. And as I grow more and more, I'm further interested in learn. I already paid. Okay. I'm further interested in learning more about building community together. I've done enough on my own, and I'm ready to do things
Mhm.
collectively. I'm waking up, so I'm not. So I have a lot to learn. and I am a sponge and ready to learn. The
Mhm.
energy that the sister is giving today is so in alignment with what the voice of what I want to feel and learn and be amongst. So that's why I needed to introduce myself as well. And Demetria is the same in the same space. I know she's not back on yet. She has been my bookkeeper and accountant for quite some
Mhm.
time, and she is a very strong sister that
Mhm.
brings this same energy that our is that Tomiko
Tomiko.
Tamako.
Last night shine like sunshine, sis.
Fine.
Tamako, yes, she brings that same beautiful energy. So I'm excited to be here. Now that I know that I have the option of being in person and on Zoom, I will alternate and make sure I'm present every week.
Beautiful. I was gonna pull you when you said serial entrepreneur. I'm sorry, we're gonna sit your ass down and give you a cooperative, okay?
Yes, I want it. That's a
You
and
somebody say
I
people say
have
cereal, I get a little nervous. I'm like, what?
no, no, no. Everything that I want to is everything
Mhm.
is on pause until I
Okay.
learn. The only thing that's full throttle is my childcare. So
Okay.
I love that, and I'm just fully invested in that. And so that's my full time. But because um and we'll talk about that later. I don't want to take up too much time,
Okay, I got you.
but yeah,
Okay.
I'm shifting.
Uh,
I'm at pause and ready
Okay.
and open to move in that direction.
All right, I'm gonna turn back over, Brother Cal. We're gonna handle you today. Go ahead, Brother Cal.
Cool. Thanks for the intro. And at some point when it's space, I'd love to hear a little more about the work you do. But
Sure.
with no further ado, I guess let's jump into our conversation about people, culture, and democratic management. All right. So, starting off, just a little bit of background on myself. I already got a lovely introduction, so I'm not gonna make this too heavy, but I'm a Baltimore native, born and raised. And I've been serving for quite a while in community engagement, direct service, and organizational leadership. Originally, I started off in operations. When I first left college, I was running a restaurant for several years. But working in that space, and getting my first taste of mentorship, just engaging with my local community, I started to have higher dreams and started to realize that when there were young people who were trying to follow behind me, I wasn't leading myself in a direction that I wanted them to follow. So that made me start thinking a lot deeper than I was at that young age. Yeah, and ended up pushing me further into the community space, and I never left. But yeah, I do a lot of grassroots engagement and community-centered leadership, youth development, and real-world readiness programming. Right now in Baltimore, we will be leading the Northwest Wellness Project, our summer camp, which is entering its third year over in Park Heights, right by Park Heights Plantation, if anybody is familiar. Um, Background also includes mental health awareness and support. When I first came back to Baltimore, I spent about 3 or 4 years in the mental health space. But to me, that was just an extension of community work. The deeper I got into working with community, I realized you can bring resources, you can bring support, you can bring food, you can even give them a new house. But if that person is still broken inside, they're just gonna destroy whatever it is you give them. And that led me into wanting to grow more in that area. Just every step of the way, it's just me trying to grow myself more so I can support my community more. Eventually, I got back towards the organizational and systems side of things. Got back into leadership within that space. I've served as office manager of a few mental health facilities. I have piloted my own youth program, and now I currently am partnered again with the Northwest Wellness Project because sometimes you can do more together, even if it ain't just your name that's at the front of the thing. But that's where I am now, serving the community, building those collaborative partnerships, and trying to continue serving as best I can. But I will jump right into it. Any questions about any of that? And welcome back.
No. Beautiful, beautiful. I love it.
Oh, thank you. So my own story includes democratic management. And I'm grateful for my early job experiences. I didn't even realize how unique they were. I started my first real job when I was in college. I was 19. After everybody in the world turned me down, I finally landed this local Papa John's of mine. But what again I didn't realize was unique until I left. But for one, the diversity of leadership within that space. In order, my bosses were first and please excuse me if I'm not using the most proper terminology. But my first bosses were in order a white homosexual man, a white woman, white straight woman, a black homosexual woman, then a black male. Basically, all of the underserved communities ended up being the faces of my leadership. And so that ended up creating a much more culturally inclusive environment than I had in many of my workplaces moving forward. And it was one where everybody's voice mattered. That was even something they built in structurally. For me, it was just my first job at the time, just answering phones. But eventually, somebody recommended that I become shift manager. And again, it wasn't something I pursued for myself. It was something the team around me said, hey, I think this person should do it. Let's get behind this person. And even with how they structure that, I was expecting to walk into an interview with one person, figure out what's going on. I walked into a boardroom with two district managers on either side, a shift leader, and one of the regional directors. And all together they talked with me, and we came to this decision together. And even then, the first decision would have been against me. A couple of us were being interviewed at the same time. And even though I had the qualifications skill wise, at that point in my career, there were questions about how assertive I was or little things like that. So they just weren't sure, and that's fair. But what gave me that push over the edge was another young man who was also being interviewed for leadership that same day, walking into his interview and telling them not about himself, but telling them, hey, that guy that just left this room, yeah, I think he's the one. And I never forget those moments. I'm grateful for that because it took a community of people to get me into better positions, not me deciding by myself. And that's why I hold on to some of the principles from that culture. One of the ones that stuck with me, they called it Papa. People are priority always, not policy, not profits, not even the product itself. But it always comes down to the people. And when you really take care of them, you find that a lot of things are less stressful. And even when I was in a community work, it was the same thing. One of my mentors in that space, he would always say to me every day, proper handling of the people, proper handling of the people, proper handling of the people. And that could look different in different situations. It could be the tone you use with someone. It could be just taking those extra steps to keep someone informed, make someone feel like they are a partner to you and not just someone that's a servant or a submissive to the situation at hand. But that requires engagement, that requires focus, that requires accountability, that requires humility. It requires a different mindset, which is interesting to me because it's something that is required to be a really effective leader. But at least in my time growing up, it wasn't always something that was taught or associated with leadership. My views of leadership were more based around the strong man, more so the one who could keep everybody's attitude in check, the one who, right, wrong, or in between, you're gonna listen to him. He can run the ship. It wasn't necessarily based on how empathetic this person may be or how understanding that person would be. And so that's just something that I grew to develop and feel challenged by as I was growing through leadership myself. But that leads to our next slide here. We have sharing versus delegating. And I'm sorry, let me slow down for a second. Were there any questions or thoughts on that last slide?
I
Will
was
you
just
be?
thinking that. Go
Oh,
ahead, say.
Will you be sharing the slides?
Yes, I definitely can make those available.
Yes, after each course, I'll be sending out an email. I think just like you got the one last Monday for the previous week, and it
Okay.
will go out like that, reminding you of the next class and also to hear the briefings or the notes. And I'll also include a video recording of this to you so you can store and have for future.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was just going to reference Brother Cal, when you mentioned about your tone. You said something about tone of
Yeah.
voice, and that's very important to consider. People don't think about that, but that's very important in your communication style, especially if you're in leadership, and particularly with Black folks, African descent. We are kind of sensitive to tones and sounds
Mm.
because that transfers to how we feel because of how we've been treated in this country, right? And sometimes how we grew up, our parents were harsh, or because they was taught too harsh or treated hard. And so the vibration of a person's voice tone, it travels through, and it can make a person feel small. It can sting. So we got to be careful how when we talk to especially each other, take that into consideration and really look at the whole person's, inhale all of them and just really pay attention to them, see all of them. So no conflict will come up, or no miscommunication. So tonality is very important in communication with leadership. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate
I would
that.
I would add to that. I'm learning that with parenting as well. I have a grown son and I have young children, and some things I'm unlearning a lot, like just the habitual ways of uh of of talking and all. And my daughter said to me one day, do you always have to yell it when you say, I could hear you when because I let them speak freely, of course, but she said you don't have to always yell. I can hear you the same way when you're saying it in a calmer voice. I get the point. And so I agree.
Yes.
Hey, nobody like a mother for that though. Yeah, we need y'all. May I ask a question actually before I dive into this part? Um, can I ask if anybody here has had an experience in a more democratic run organization versus a more top-down organization, and if you felt any difference between the two?
I would say,
So I can, I'm
go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead. No,
Sorry to
I was
put you on
saying,
the
Oh, there
spot.
she goes. She back. Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry,
sis. There you go.
I can speak to that as a person who works with community organizations like corporate America, and they don't appear to be the same way in the very beginning, but they kind of are, depending on who the players that are in the organization itself. So it's all depending on what people's motivations in regards to what they do.
Alright.
I would say, add for myself, the organizations that I run, the two nonprofit, I run those in a very, I wouldn't call them democratic, but you probably would define them as that, Brother Calvin, but I call them circular. African culture, we operate circular motions, right? Rhythms. So that means even though I'm the founder, like my folk, they tell me what to do. Look, I check in with them on everything. I say, let's discuss it. And the reason I do that is not so much because it's like I want us all to know, but if I step away or something happened to me or I'm not able to do it, you all should be able to step in and make that decision. And you better make the right decision, but I'm just playing. But you should be able to, it should be a crossover. You should know the same thing I know. And
Yeah,
whatever I know, skill set, trainings, information, knowledge, I'm always feeding them and passing it on. So it's not an imbalance. And at the same time, that does not it don't drain me. People say, "How you do everything?" I say, child, hello, I delegate. God damn it, I can't do all this stuff myself. I mean, I just came back from Detroit last night, a lawyers conference. I have to go to United Nations tomorrow. I have to go back to Philly. It's like they make me look good, but I make them look good too. You see what I'm saying? It is
yeah,
reciprocity. Ain't no reciprocity. I don't care if it's in your personal relationship. That shit is not gonna go. We don't do no non-reciprocity. Oh no, 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 no. And so that's how I move in the organization, and leaders produce leaders, and they are all leaders. I'm very proud to say. So I can step away, they know what to do.
Understood. Hey, and the way you lead in that probably goes a long way towards that. So thank you. Thank you a lot. And kind of what I was hinting at, to be honest. When you're in those traditional, I'll call it, for lack of better words, management structures, things tend to be top down. Things tend to always come through one or a few contact points, usually on a management or executive team. And not always, but very often, there's the sense of this barrier between the people who are doing the work versus the people who are administering and delegating. And at the end of the day, everything is a choice. People are free to run their business however they see fit. But in my experiences, the ones that are run more like Miss Tamiko described tend to be more effective in my eyes because you have people who feel like they're more a part of what's going on. They feel like, okay, we all own this role. We are sharing this responsibility, not I'm just doing this thing for that person who cuts my paycheck. People also feel like their voice matters. It goes a long way to even just give somebody a voice, even if you're gonna make the final decision at the end of the day, how included they feel in that process, how much they feel that their thoughts and experiences and emotions actually matter, will affect a lot of times how committed they feel to that decision. And one thing I've learned about leadership is sometimes it's less about deciding which way you want to go or what your strategy is, and a lot more about convincing your team to be aligned with the same vision as you and all the minor adjustments to keep everybody on the same page and keep that vision moving forward.
Can I make a
And
comment, Bro Calvin, real quick?
yes,
Also, I
yes.
wanted to insert what you just said. This drives me crazy. I go to different groups, I'm in meetings, and only two people know the information. You got 10, 15 people in there, and that's that top down traditional, non-reciprocal NA that is non-applicable in 2026. And the people in the room don't know what the heck going on. But part
Yeah.
of it, they keep the information between themselves, who they call leadership, because they don't think no one else can know, or they don't want to. And what it does, it creates competition.
Yes.
It creates competition. And that is European philosophy culture. It creates me against you. You African people, it's Ubuntu, it's I am you, you and me, it's we. And so
Yeah.
we gotta be careful. We don't get caught up in these various cultural theologies, philosophy that's not ours. One of the cultures that has that down pack is the Asian culture. They work together in unison. That's why they became a world power after they was dominated, almost decimated by European culture hundreds of years ago. They got together, got grilled, grind down to it, and they went to work. And now they are power to be reckoned with. Everybody afraid of them. And
Hmm.
they don't let you know they coming. They just do the work. They do the inventions, and they
They
have
do the
become a
work and they
superpower
work
because
together.
come on now. Come on now. And this is what we gotta learn. You want power? Your ass gotta learn to work together, collab, share. Ain't no competition. Look at the mess we in. All of us can do
Hmm.
something. All of us got special gifts. So we gotta get that in our head. Otherwise, we're gonna stay behind.
Yes, yes, yes. But now we also have to learn how to build these new systems. Because now I can tell you what I prefer. Of course, it's just the sharing systems, easily. However, I'm aware that there are pros and cons to both, and I've been spending a lot of time looking at how these systems develop, especially when I see people who started speaking the same way I do, but then they end up in a leadership position and gravitate more to the other side. And as I explored this, I realized we have some things that we got to work on. We got to work on our foundation of trust, because that and when it especially when it comes to that information sharing, I feel like a lot of times that's what it comes down to, that trust between those who are leading something and those they have helping them, whether or not they can keep their business or their idea private and protected, or whether this person is really going to grow with them versus just take those nods and skills and disappear somewhere else. Those type of concerns, which can be real concerns, and I'm going to ask for some input when it comes to balancing those concerns. However, I do think it is worth the risk to be more open to with people. Yes, there is a possibility that someone can take a piece of the idea, but in the real world, more often than not, when people end up in the same space, a lot of times they may have been inspired by someone else they're around. But it's not that one person and trying to be this other person that got them there. Chances are, if they have similar experience, there was probably some similar interest, some similar background, or some similar education that did led them on a similar path. And if we were less worried about having one more person that looks like us in the room, which should be a benefit, then I feel like we could be more open with what we share. Um, but that is just a personal view. Uh, Other things that have linked towards that are just limited resources, and sometimes when more than one person is trying to do the same thing and there's limited support available, then people are going to play it close to the chest. They don't want to tell everybody everything until they're sure everything is locked in place. Um, and then there's the real thing that not everybody is for you. And developing the discernment and developing the teams that are cultured to even be able to move in that cooperative way. Because as much as we want to share and we want to work together, if I'm pouring into a leaky cup, then everything I'm pouring into that cup is going to go right back out the bottom. It's not cycling back in. But again, that is on the discernment of that personal group of people who are bringing that team together to really choose the right people so that you don't have to stress so much about those things. Even when it comes to people wanting to do their own thing, that's something that those who've mentored me had warned me against. But it's something that I chose. I decided I want to have a different experience of, and I'm glad because what I learned is that when I work with people who have bigger goals, yeah, I'm not gonna have them forever. And I already know that up front. Sometimes my time with them is less than it would be with a person who just came into work or came in to be a part of specifically what I have doing, have going on. But a lot of times their drive is higher, their ambition is higher because they have something that they're reaching for themselves. They're not just learning the rules or the skills just because I say so. They're learning them because they want to learn them to create the life for themselves that they want to create. And if I gotta let them go, I gotta let them go. But being a person who is able to support someone on the journey that they care about leads to better relationships, leads to better professional situations, leads to more efficient work. And a lot of times, even if they do leave, when they down the line getting towards a position that they want to get in, they didn't forget about the people who helped them forward and helped teach them along the way. So a lot of times I can still reconnect with those people and get support in other ways. Um, but that's when it comes to that. Getting right back to the slide, just for a recap. Again, sharing is more distributed. Outcomes and and decisions are shared. It builds true alignment and closeness, togetherness, and people have buy-in. They can think, act, and stand on the outcome because they are part of it. Ideally, this type of system becomes self-sustaining in the long run, as opposed to delegating, where the task is handed off. Ownership stays at the top. There's this us and them artificial separation barrier that tends to exist. Things become competitive, one side's trying to get over on the other or keep the other in control. People execute, but they don't feel ownership. And a lot of times the leader becomes a bottleneck and eventually ends up being the person that's cut out of the loop, the one that they're sneaking around, working around, or sometimes outright overthrowing. Any questions or thoughts on this slide before I go on to the next? Cool. And I hope I'm not running on too much. Feel free to slow me down, jump in anytime. This is kind of piggybacking off of that same concept, but this is just a way that I've learned to define it. I've learned to separate successful leadership and effective leadership. Successful leadership to me is the kind of leadership that is rewarded. And when I say successful, I mean that it succeeds. I don't necessarily mean that it is good or it is bad. I just mean that that leader is able to get done what they want to get done. Um, I could use, even let's say a Napoleon or a Hitler as an example. And I hope that doesn't strike any strong sensitivities. But you can take a leader like that who the whole world over agreed was not good for the world. Yet when it came to getting their will and their way opposed across masses of people and large distances, you had some of the most successful in that sense leaders that history has ever presented us. Um, so that is technically successful. But that's why I have to create a separation between what is successful and what is effective. Success is the attention, the recognition, the promotion, the award, the celebration. Technically, you don't have to be good at your job to get the promotion. You just have to be liked by the person that makes the decision. And I don't know if you've had this experience. I know I have myself. I know I've been in organizations where I'm doing 80, 90% of the work. But there's that one person who's real buddy buddy with the boss who just knows how to kiss up in the right way. And when it comes to the rewards, when it comes to the prime positions and promotions, I already knew it ain't matter how much I worked. Now, if I could be the perfect goody two shoes and say the right things at the coffee breaks and all that, I'll probably get somewhere. But just quietly and effectively doing my job was not going to secure me that next position. And a lot of times I would choose to be effective first. To me, being effective was more important than the promotion. It may have affected the bottom line, it may have affected what I take home or, what's on my paycheck. But a position does not define your ability to lead. And there have also been organizations or rooms that I'm in where maybe I did not have the successful position on paper, but my addition to that room, regardless of my role, put me in a position to support that project, make things flow a lot more effectively, and make sure we had the outcomes that we needed to have. That to me is effective leadership. That is about the system itself. Yes, people are a priority, but the system matters too. The metric matters too. What are we managing? How are we deciding success? Not just, well, the person in the suit said so, so that's what we on. No, what's our goal? If our goal is to have, better education in our community, then okay. Are we looking at how many of our students make it to the next grade versus how many are held back? Are we looking at our attendance records for the school and how our family environments are contributing to those? Those type of things will be a lot more effective than, let's say, that person who want to be successful. Maybe to him, all that matter is that the kid passes. That's how you end up with things like No Child Left Behind, where you have children passed on to the next grade who we know don't have the education or the skills. But some leader or somebody in a position knows that, well, I need to see that kid pass for me to get my good grade, and I want to be successful, so I'm just going to do whatever that requires. Again, that is the difference to me between successful leadership and effective leadership. Want to pause for a moment just to ask if that came through clear and see if anybody has any questions, thoughts, or experiences that they would like to share in relation to that. Cool. Well, I'll go on a little more. All right. So we have the environment of leadership. The environment is just as important as the leader. I started with the leader because he's going to be the face of things 9 times out of 10. That's the one who usually has to carry the public weight of the decisions, even if they're made by the group. That's the one who has to have that discernment when it comes to organizing the people and the structure, and to making those tough decisions where when there isn't clarity amongst the group, or where your unique vantage as a leader just tells you that, hey, I know I gotta make a tough decision right now. That's why we give our president the ability to make executive orders, for example. And we pray that they're used in good faith and with the best intention of our people in mind. But doubling back here, again, we're talking about the environment now. This is the context in which we are working, organizing, or leading. And that can be very, very diverse. Your environment could be an office space. If you're a traditional service based company, it could be a restaurant, or it could be a school, or it could be the community at large, or your entire city or region, depending on what scale you are operating in. If I can ask once more, um, would it be okay if you guys shared a little bit about the types of spaces or groups that you're currently working with? Anybody?
I'm sorry, I was having trouble coming off of mute. So currently I work in the early childhood education space. I own childcare centers. And so my work is a lot around like policy and advocating for children. Um, and then this is just in complete alignment. I'm currently in school for community leadership, and my last course was asset-based community development, which is very in alignment with everything that you're discussing right now in top-down leadership, learning about leadership, understanding how to be a better servant, understanding people's gifts versus skills, and how community all tapping into the gifts of the community instead of making the decisions for them. So that's the space that I'm in, and I just feel completely aligned in this space as well.
Understood. And thank you for your support. Um, with being in
And
the childcare space, that is a very unique environment. People are very sensitive about their children and who they leave their children with. Has that environment brought unique challenges or concerns that you had to face?
Of course. However, we lead with leveraging the trust and relationships of families to connect them to resources that allow them to thrive. So our mission is around knowing that we have to establish trust with families, but our overarching mission is to be able to support community and family. So our goal is to intentionally build the trust. So we do all kinds of things like home visiting services where we're assessing the needs of the family beyond childcare. Childcare is easy, routines, regimens, curriculum, rigorous curriculum, all of those parts are either children pieces are easy. But in order to really develop and support the children, we have to go outside of just child development. So our programs are structured intentionally to build trust and relationships and then figure out how we can support community.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. All right. Thank you for going the extra mile. Hey, sometimes people treat those places just like breaks, so to speak. Drop off the kid, and sometimes it's, yeah, carry that way on the other end. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yes. I saw a hand up. Was that on
oh,
purpose?
okay, yeah, Tomiko.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you was talking about the environment, and thank you for sharing, sis. I enjoy hearing that. With myself, I was describing earlier about this type of shared type of circular governance that we have in the two nonprofits I had. But in the transportation, the trucking, I'm dealing with men. So that is a more top-down approach. You got me? Because I'm dealing with men, and in this, especially American culture, the respect for women is lower because as comparing to other cultures. We've gotten so away from so far away from our African culture, which is really matriarchal. So here in the European culture, we don't demonstrate that, right? And so in that, I have to demonstrate leadership. I don't play with the men. I am Mr. So and so. I call him Mr. So and so. I don't do no nicknames. I'm straight. I'm direct because they must respect me. And transportation is a male-dominated industry, and I'm dealing with black men, and they got issues. So, and it's a hard type of industry. So and that way I communicate, I'm clear with them, I'm direct, I'm to the point, and they appreciate that. And so if it's just me, they gonna follow my lead. You know what I'm saying? That's one group I deal with. And then the other groups is where I may have to make decisions. So leadership, it requires a lot of discernment. I like how you use that word, a lot of wisdom, a lot of meditation. So I do a lot of work, but at the same time, I have a lot of time where I'm by myself, while I'm reflecting and thinking about the people that's around me. I'm thinking about who they are, what's going on, strategies. And sometimes that means I may have to make tough decisions. Like recently I had a sister, we're doing a group project, but she shared some piece of information that she was supposed to share because she was trying to self-promote. She wanted to get herself out there, she wanted to get her information, and she shared it with people who she don't even know. But she put it in a whole WhatsApp chat. And I'm like, sis, I told you to come out that chat, and they was in there. I put them in there by myself. I said, don't. I said, just come to the chat. But before she came to the chat, she wanted to share a report she did and share information. I said, sis, you don't even know those people. I said, but I just wanted to communicate. I said, but you don't know them. Just because I say I know them, don't mean they know you. And I said, and some of them, they not even for black people like that. These people about business. And so I said, this will be the last time we'll be collaborating with you. I'll revisit it. We will revisit it, and I shared it with my team. You know what I'm saying? I said we'll revisit the decision. We're not going to collab with you in another 2 years. Now, some people say, "Dad, I know her, but I had to spank her because I've heard about things she's done." But I always say, "Well, let me see if the person going to deal with me like that." And so now that I've seen it, I have to spank you so you can stop that bad habit, and also so you can stop jeopardizing group projects. You see? So she got a little hurt by it, but really what I'm doing, I'm helping you because it's bigger than you. So that again, that's a part of leadership. Sometimes you gotta make decisions like that. My own mother, my sister, if you mess up within the organization, I will fire you. You see what I'm saying? Because it's bigger than us when you're dealing with groups of people. And so with leadership, it's a lot of wisdom required, discernment, self-reflection. You gotta work on yourself, make sure you high vibing, that you're aware of people. It's a lot that going, and not everybody a leader. That's another thing. A leader is someone that hypes the people up. They pull the people and they listen to them. And most of the time the people choose them. So that's another thing. People may realize, I'm like, some people have the time they bring me on board. I'm like, you need more development and leadership. This is you are missteering this organization. This organization is stagnant. The people not growing. And so it requires a certain type of honesty and truth with leadership. Everybody ain't gonna like you. And guess what? They ain't like Jesus either. So come on, keep it going. So these are just some of the things with leadership people take for granted or unaware of. Unaware of. And so this leads to a lot of issues. But if you're meant to be, you're gonna be. You're gonna be.
Yes.
Tamako, before this is over, I'm gonna need to not just touch the hem of Jesus' garment, but yours as well. Because this is speaking to my soul. I didn't mention that you made me think this brought up something. I'll only take a second,
Uh-huh.
Calvin.
Appreciate it.
I realized as you were saying that, like I have two different roles. I invest in real estate too, and
Okay.
you helped me put words to the way that I deal with the contractors. And I'm even
Okay.
in the middle of suing one of my contractors because,
Uh-huh.
he took my kindness for weakness. But I
Uh-huh.
deal with them totally different than I deal with my teachers because I don't feel
Yeah.
respected. I know that, they start more than one project, and because I'm a woman, they pause on my project. And I'm
Yeah.
making a point to the reason that I'm moving forward with the suit is because I'm spanking him. Like, so you're giving me words like that. You can't hold my project up because I'm not, because you don't respect that my money is green just like the other people's money is green. And so you just gave me language when you were referencing your trucking business versus your non-profit space. And that's all. This is just this again, this is just good. I'm a sponge right now.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you guys for participating with me, and yeah, I'm enjoying this conversation. Um, jumping back to the slide for a second, we are talking now about the environment of leadership, and have a few experienced leaders on the call, I can tell, with been in a few different realms of leadership. When I am working with different groups of people, I like to find ways to make things a tiny bit less subjective, because leadership is a very, very subjective space, in my opinion. But I try to bring a little bit of the science into it. And one of those concepts I look at also is the environment of leadership. To me, that is the space or bubble which our work is happening in. And there are a few aspects of this environment that are really worth paying attention to when it comes to, I guess, reading a room and can help you position yourself to be more effective. Those things to me are the demographics of that environment. Just hearing about some of those workspaces or hmm, workspace is not the word that I want, but a better one's not jumping to me at the moment. But beyond just work, but spaces of communing. Um, if you're in the daycare space, it's probably mostly children. There's maybe a couple adults for every child, maybe one adult for every 4 or 5 children or something like that, depending on how the ratios are set up. But there's normally more youth than adults. The adults that are in that space are normally qualified childcare professionals or people with a certain level of training, not just anybody off the street that you might find in a fast food restaurant or something like that. Um, there's already a set culture of compassion, of caring, of understanding, of caretaking, and these are part of that space. If you know what's a part of that space, it's easier to tell what's fit for that space and what's not. If you have the person who is very loud, very aggressive, very stern, and just will hold their position, they may not fit very well in that environment. But it doesn't mean that they're a bad person or candidate. If you put them in a different environment, let's say a nightclub environment, and they're the bouncer, all of a sudden, all of those traits and characteristics are now in alignment with that environment. Because in that space where you're dealing with a lot of noise, with a lot of crowds, with sometimes confusion and disorder, you do need someone who can be assertive. You do need someone who can be heard over the noise, who can direct others, who sometimes can be aggressive if a conflict arises. So understanding that environment is really, really important. Um, it also can help with approaching those people and being received or respected. If I walked into, again, using my old workplace as an example, that local store that I worked at was a lot of people from that local community. And if you disrespected the community as a whole, not just that one building, you were going to have some problems. And hey, know if you know, don't if you don't, but you do better to know. Same way as if you're the only male in an all-female space or the only white person in an all-black space, any sort of cultural disconnects or instances where you are the outsider in someone else's environment or comfort zone. Those are times where I recommend starting slow. I recommend asking a lot of questions. I recommend putting aside your assumptions because even things that make sense in your environment and your community can just be different when you're in a different space. And we tend to respect those people who come in and want to understand what we got going on versus those who come in, brush everything aside and say, well, you got a leader here now, so from now on, we doing it this way because I said so and I got the track record to prove it. That 9 times out of 10 does not work in the long term. Short term, yes. They may even have the right system. But because they did not connect that system to the environment that they're operating in, it ends up getting rejected, just like your body rejecting a sickness, just because it's not compatible with that system sustaining itself. Um, Other things that I tend to look at when it comes to environment are what I refer to as the climate and the atmosphere. The climate to me, let's say I'm calling it a hot or a cold space. That to me is the temperature of that room. What it tends to function at if there is no outside force applied. If I just leave it to rest, everybody knows their job and they're just vibing, how are they working? Is this a fast-paced climate? Is this a slow-paced climate? Is this a loud, energetic, exciting space? Or is this a quiet, reserved, professional space? That to me is what I would look at as the climate of that space. When it comes to atmosphere, I'm thinking pretty much the same thing. But now I'm just thinking of the quality within that space. Let's say I have two spaces, both of them have a slow, calm climate, but one of them may have an atmosphere of collaboration and support. And so you see those people, they still moving slow and taking their time, but working together and communicating. The other place may have a slow, laid back climate, but its atmosphere is very punishing and very combative. So you don't see people speaking up. And if you do see somebody making a mistake, you see somebody over there snapping down at them, ready to whip them and throw them out. And, those two atmospheres can function very, very differently. And again, I'm trying to stay away from using good or bad here. I'm just gonna say different because in most cases, you may think that a atmosphere that is very competitive and not very tolerant is a bad thing. We want people to be able to grow, and people ain't perfect, so sometimes they're gonna make a mistake while they're growing. But if you put that in a different room, let's say I'm talking about a brain surgeon, all right, at that point, it ain't about understanding. It ain't as much about compassion when this person is got a knife inside of my brain. At that point, I just want that person to be good at their job. And you can see how certain spaces prioritize for that. I've heard some people say that doctors can be a-holes or something like that. And that may just be that atmosphere is not prioritizing for that. And that's okay. Um, but that is how I look at climate and atmosphere. And what is interesting about that is if you're aware of those things, those tend to influence what decisions or strategies of achieving outcomes become naturalized within that space, and how those things tend to work out. And keeping in that whole climate atmosphere reference, I call that the weather pattern. Because depending on the climate and atmosphere of a space, when I'm faced with similar decisions or choices, I'm probably going to make similar decisions. For example, if I am in a very fast-paced environment where demand shifts rapidly and call outs are frequent. Okay. In a space like that, I know I gotta be ready for short notice changes. I gotta be ready to update things on the fly. And I gotta be comfortable calling people when they not at work and asking them, yo, you gonna come help me out? Just because I can't predict how it's gonna show up. Whether or not I choose to pick up that phone or not is gonna affect how good my day goes. Whether or not I choose to be nice with how I'm speaking to that person or try to come down on them and make it mandatory that they come in on one of their off days every week is gonna affect how my job goes. Whether I do choice A or choice B, whether I work with this person or that person, whether I choose this person policy or that person policy, excuse me. Whether I do one thing or the other has large implications. So I try to pay attention to what people are doing and deciding, especially when they have to make a choice of one thing versus the other, especially when these choices are recurring. I try to pay attention to those things and position myself and my team for success. And I say myself and my team because maybe I noticed that one person, if it rains, I know this person's going to call out. It just is what it is. And now, whether or not I choose to be mad at that can affect how well my team runs. I could choose to fire this person, but maybe they're a good worker in every other way, and I already know how their pattern work. They just don't travel well in bad weather. So instead, I could choose to just be prepared for that. And when I see bad weather, call somebody else. And I can still live with it. And I can still have a system that works just because I understand its patterns and its environment. I'm not confused and lashing out about it because I don't know what's going on or why it's going on. I understand what environment I'm in. Maybe I'm in an environment where good workers are hard to come by. So you got to accept the good with the bad. Maybe I'm in a climate where I'm already asking people to go above and beyond. So I'm going to take a little bit of slack. But, if I'm in a different environment, I will make my choices differently. And that's discernment. But I'm ready to move on to the next slide. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns on that before I continue?
I just wanted to comment. I appreciate you said in the slide notes you talking about a climate of growth. Very important. We have got to develop leaderships, and sometimes you can develop leadership even when they don't see it in themselves. So I have a young woman with the think tank that I run. She's brilliant. AI woman that traveled all over the world, India, taught, just a brilliant mind. But she hasn't been able to find work for the last year. I think something's going on with her mentally, emotionally, some type of whole lack mentality or scarcity that she got to break something about herself. So we're working on the project in the Caribbean. And so the people got to get trained, deep poverty, our folks. And she recommends a training company that she's consulted with. White guy own it. She said, but his wife is Nigerian or something like that. And she talks about how long he been doing it and he got $1 million budget and all this. And I'm like, I don't understand. She's like, well, I'm like, you do the same thing. I said, why would you bring him in to train when that's what you do? She said, well, it's just me. I said, again, I don't understand. How come you have not expanded yourself into a team, an organization? And she go on to explain, well, he's this and that. I said, I'm not impressed with him. I'm impressed with you. I know what you can do. I'm looking at you. And so sometimes with leadership, we have to make sure that our climate where people are growing, whether it's business or personal. If you with somebody and you ain't growing, bye, you evicted. That is a sign of a healthy relationship. And that spills over to business. That person's got to grow. So I could be pushy. I do a lot of mentoring. I'm pushing her because I know she can handle this. I know she a leader. And you tell me about somebody else. So I say he gonna do this month of classes. They're gonna do it free. Cool. But after that, you take over. Well, I ain't 501c3, then get 501c3. Well, I ain't got no team. Well, find your team. You can do this. Why bring somebody else so you can do so? Even with us as people, black folks in America, sometimes we have these issues of esteem and not loving ourselves because of how we've been treated historically and it been passed on generationally. And sometimes we got to handle each other with care and identify that. We got to be mature enough and see, well, no, they ain't all of you. That's just a piece of you. And sometimes that's just inherited. They ain't yours. That's your mama's. That's your papa's. That's your great great grandmom's. And so I'm like that. I try to help develop leaders. You know, I could be pushy and they say, Miss Sister T, Sister T, no, you can do this. You can go and speak, especially ones coming out of prison after 40, 50 years. Sister T, I don't know what to say. Yes, you do. I hear you talk all the time. Because I need you to do that so you can take it back to your family and break these cycles of lack, break these cycles of disempowerment. You got it's bigger than you,
Yes.
and so that's another part as a leader. Sometimes you gotta be a little pushy. But when they know it's in love and concern, you ain't trying to hurt nobody, they say okay. But that person right there, that might be the person that set the world on fire. Come on now.
Hmm.
Change us for the masses for the better. So that's another thing. I like it in your style. You say we got to create a person should be growing. You should be growing, period. Ain't no stagnation allowed. That is non-negotiable.
Yes, but not common experience, unfortunate. And that's why, I feel a need to highlight it. Because again, we're in a space where we loving and supportive of each other, but in many spaces, unfortunately, growth beyond a certain point can be seen as a threat. Like if this person keeps on growing, they're gonna grow out of my business or away from my group. So,
That's another thing. And you gotta be secure within yourself. I allow that. I have no problem putting people on platforms so they can shine. It don't take nothing. It's a poem Nelson Mandela read, really written by Marion Williamson when he was released from prison. It says, our deepest fear is not that we are less, but that we are beautiful, that we are great. Our deepest fear is that our light is so bright. Our deepest fear, but when we let it out, we let other people shine. It's a beautiful poem. I give that to people to recite a lot. We are afraid sometimes of how powerful, how beautiful we really are. Come through, Nelson Mandela. Come through, spirit. You see? And so even if it's a threat, you got to sit in there anyway, because that's who you're supposed to be. You're supposed to shine. Period. You ain't apologizing for how divine made you, what he put on you. And so
mm,
I'm now I hear what you saying, bro. But I push people like that. I'm like, well, if you brilliant, you supposed to be brilliant. If you great, your ass supposed to be great. Come on now.
now,
These are the people
I
we
agree
talk
with you
about.
100%,
Ain't these the people we talk
120%.
about? These are success stories we talk about. These are the people that we reference. These are the ones that have
Yes.
caused change in our lives and in our culture and in our world. Come
Yes.
on now. So we
Yes.
got to get used to hyping and believing and building each other up and being okay with each other and not being jealous and envy. That's another thing. The same sister. Well, she brought in another sister. I want to have peace with her. I said, but she is jealous of you. No, but I want to keep peace. She's in competition with you. So what I'm gonna do in a month, I'm gonna shut her down again. I'm gonna tell her. I'm like, this. We not gonna. If you want me to continue to work with you, we can't work with her. Because what she trying to do, she's trying to take what she had because she not in line and peace within herself. You can't work with an energy that's in conflict. So that's another part of leadership. Sometimes you gotta make a person look at yourself. I'm seeing you, because they may not see themselves because they've been taught not to growing up. And so you see being part of in leadership, all the psychology that you got to understand. That's why you got to pay attention to your folks, but be secure within yourself to share the light. Come through, Nelson Mandela. Our deepest fear is not that we are less, but that we are powerful. Come on through.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a beautiful world.
Thank you for
Miss Love,
sharing.
did you want to? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to add to that, Tomoko. Marion Wilson is one of my favorite authors. Her book, Return to Love, if you
Come on, I'm
haven't.
about to slap you. I said I got 3 copies. Come on now. I refer that all the time to the sisters. I pass it out like candy.
Can you repeat the name of that book again?
Return to Love.
It's very good for black folks. It's a beautiful book, bro. You gotta read it. It's good for men and women. Very good.
Gosh, I'm gonna look that up.
I
Thank you.
didn't know. I'm gonna read now. I'm gonna read the poem now. I saved it for me to read when I leave. I mean when we done.
Print it
But
out, put in your refrigerator. Our deepest fear.
I think we can take a moment for that. Yeah. Drum roll, say. Thank you guys for sharing and participating. I'm all
I
this
know
here.
we got church up in here, so everybody's supposed to be there. They missing out like that. Y'all done missed out Saturday
Hey,
morning.
but this is what it's supposed to feel like, you know. Yeah,
Hey,
we're a
that's
part of it with
right.
each other.
That's right. Yeah, we all gonna be blessed. This whole month, next month, I put on. It's gonna be a good month for us. I'm putting the energies
Mm-hmm.
out there. And it's gonna bless us. Yes. May
Mm-hmm.
we all have good wealth, good health. May we get all the blessings that we deserve and more plus some times two. Okay.
Heard that.
I
Heard that.
received that. I received that. And you know, just to be vulnerable, I've been calibrating, right? I'm I'm getting I'm saying goodbye to some of my old thoughts and welcoming some of my new ones. And
Yeah.
yesterday was a real trying time for me. And so this
Yeah.
morning I talked to my aunt, and you know, she always put me in a good space. And it's not a low space, it's just I'm learning, and the
Yeah.
calibration is real. And so this is just like God's divine, just like arms being wrapped around me in this class today.
Woo.
Like I feel it. Like I know that this is just full confirmation that it's okay. It's this. I'm meeting more of my people, more of my tribe.
Your
Like so.
soul tried. That's right, sis.
Yeah, so it's okay. Like it's easier to let go the other side when
Mm.
I see this good on this side.
Yeah, you ain't in size 8 no more. You in size 10, 12. Come on now. Get some
Make
clothes that
room and
fit,
fill your
okay?
cup.
And be swagging with it, okay?
Heard.
You pull up the poem. You
You
pulled it
gonna,
up.
yeah, share the
I
poem.
did. Yeah, I got it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Y'all gonna cry. Somebody gotta read that. Come through, Nelson and Winnie Mandela. Go ahead and read it.
Floor is yours.
You got it. Who gonna read? Go ahead, sis, read.
Oh, wait a minute. Me. Oh,
Oh yeah, I thought you were sharing it with us. Yeah.
That's what you
okay.
said.
Okay, yeah, I have it up. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frighten us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who
Uh-uh. Sorry, my screen froze. Can you
are
guys still hear
people?
me? Oh, it's
Oh,
back.
could you
Okay,
hear
there.
me?
Yes, you broke out
It
for a minute,
froze
sis.
for a
Okay, there you
second,
go.
but you good.
Oh, wait. I came into my house. My internet isn't working. 1 second. Let me just switch one thing so that it won't cut back out. It's
Okay.
trying to get on my internet. Okay,
Mm.
can you all hear me now?
Yep,
Yeah.
you back. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna start over. You all mind if I start over then?
No, go ahead. You was in it. You was on rhythm. Go ahead.
Uh, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frighten us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. This is gonna be our opening and our graduation this year. I'm just letting y'all know when my babies graduate this year, this is how we're gonna start.
That's how you gonna sound this.
That's how we're gonna start. We're gonna start right there.
I
They,
know that's right.
we're gonna get this in them at 4. When they graduate at 4, this is where they're gonna start. This,
Bro, Cap,
this,
you see what you started? You got
Hey, I'm
people
here
changing their
for it. They
system.
can't be scared of that light.
oh
I'm
man.
here
But
for
you
it.
said gorgeous, talented, you the GTF sister. She said gorgeous, talented. She put some bass in there. I love
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. And that's not, I feel like that's still on point. That's not even too much of a distraction. Thank you.
That people need to read that every day and before they go to sleep. And then
Yeah.
we would change, believe me.
Yeah, yeah. believe it or not, like it's the little things like that, and trying to tie it full circle, but it's the little moments like that to me that make better environments, that make more
Hey,
connected
That's a
communities.
real pledge of allegiance.
hey, it changes your internal infrastructure. Come on now.
Mhm.
Yeah, I want to hear what you guys got to say. I want to hear what you reading. I want to hear those affirmations because I might need to say
Mhm.
something on back to myself on some of them hard days. So yes, please. Yeah.
I know that's
But
right.
yeah. But
Mm,
jumping back with it. Now, what's interesting though, right? Now,
mm,
speaking again from my professional voice, even though I know those are the perfect environments, and I feel that that is how we should always be allowed to be wherever we go.
mm,
If I'm advising or mentoring someone, nine
mm,
times out of 10, I'm going to tell them first read the room. Because
mhm,
even though we want to be that way, we got to
mhm,
be sure what environment we in.
mhm,
Sometimes we in an environment where, like you warned about with that chat, oversharing can be a negative in certain spaces.
mhm, mhm,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah. Or sometimes even if it's the right spirit, it's just the wrong person. And we gotta
Mhm,
understand those little things. But
mhm,
that comes down to environment. And when you are reading your environment, same way as you reading anything else, I look at all my senses. I look at what am I repeatedly seeing, hearing, feeling,
mhm,
within that space. Those to
yeah,
me are the things that determine what type of environment that I'm in. Am I constantly seeing people laugh or seeing people smile, seeing people talk with each other? Okay, I might be in a friendly space. If I'm seeing
mhm,
people avoid each other, or I'm hearing people talk behind each other's back, or
mhm,
hearing people bully other people, I may realize, oh, I may be in a different kind of space. Maybe I need to carry myself a little different over here.
right.
Uh, Same thing for when I'm trying to create a space or bring something new into one of my existing environments. If I want to change it, a lot of times it's not gonna be by repeating the outcome. I'm not gonna get people to say show up on time. I'm not gonna get people to show up on time just because I said show up on time. But I may get them to show up on time if I make it more visible to them what their schedule is. If they are hearing more frequently, they're hearing people be rewarded when they practice good time management. They're hearing people be coached when they practice bad time management. They're given chances to feel the responsibility and weight, maybe lead a project where that time management, they're gonna feel it directly in their own day-to-day work experience versus just me feeling it as a manager. There are certain steps that I can take to nurture the environment that I want to grow. And a lot of times that looks like planting seeds, watering them, and waiting for them to grow. But any other thoughts or concerns on the environment of leadership? I'm sorry, I had you guys' faces up here with me. I can't see you at the moment. But all right, I'll continue on. Now we get to well, we already in the meat, but let's call this the potatoes. Democratic management. We talked a lot about leadership, the environment you lead in, successful leaders versus effective leaders, et cetera, et cetera. But we're talking about democratic management. So we're talking really about the people as a whole, not just the leader. No one man is an island, period. No matter how amazing they are, no matter how wealthy they are, no matter how powerful they are, no one man or woman alone can achieve their goals any more than another individual within an ecosystem. And if they are, a lot of times it's with the assistance of other people. The person with the most money is probably hiring and paying the most other people. The person with the most power is probably influencing the most people to support their vision. Even the guy who thinks they may be working independently, you're working within policy structures and environments that still involve other people. So nobody is an island. Nobody should treat themselves that way, especially if you want to have a democratically managed environment. But when it comes down to that, the next natural question is then, well, what creates democratic management? What processes can we use to serve democratic management? I'll give a few, but then I'll also ask for a little bit of input if y'all okay with that. When it comes to democratic management, some of the small things that I've seen work really well can be something as simple as a suggestion box. It could be mandatory servings, sorry, mandatory votings uh, before certain decisions or meetings or polls or things like that. There can be situations where leadership roles rotate, where maybe one person leaves this week and the next person leaves that week, or one shift versus another. And depending on how well these processes are or are not set up, can contribute to how democratic one environment is versus another. And depending on what type of environment or space you're working in, helps you determine how much of these democratic systems that we can incorporate without making our job completely inefficient. For example, one of the most democratic spaces that I worked in was a company where pretty much everybody's voices was included on almost every decision made in that office, which was awesome from the democratic side of things, but sometimes frustrating from the logistical side of things. Because any decision that got made, let's say it started out with a group of executives talking, okay, well, now there has to be a whole executive meeting. And then after that, there has to be either some sort of email or some sort of staff meeting. And now staff have feedback and complaints. So now there's a meeting with staff and executive leadership. And then there's a bunch of one-off meetings where these team members are then going to the one level of leadership that they're most comfortable with, and usually in private conversations, and they're speaking their true heart and intentions. And then this has to get back to the executive team, and then finally all of these things get assessed and a decision gets made. Um, and most days this was fine. This was a more slow-paced environment than some others that I've worked in, where some things may be a minute to minute, hour to hour. This one was more so a month to month or week to week. So we could afford to slow down and really work through some of those decisions. But if I looked at some other environments, like when I worked in the fast food space, for example, now, we did want everybody's voice to be heard, but that was a very, very minute to minute to minute space. That time you take to step away and go get other voices in the conversation can be the time it took for that situation to devolve into chaos and complaints and disorder down the future. So we still wanted to be democratic, but it looked different in that way. Democratic management in that space may not have always looked like your voice getting heard with every decision, but it may look like, all right, maybe I decided all the tasks that had to be done, and maybe I just wrote them on a list because I ain't got time to go back and forth about each one of them. But I at least gave the employees the choice to say, of these lists of tasks that I decided, which one do you want to pick for yourself? And we can negotiate about that. So sometimes there are smaller ways to include choice or include democracy, even if it can't fit with every single decision. But there are a few things that are important for that democratic system to be maintained. One, you have to have a leadership that facilitates it. And I use that word facilitate, not control. Facilitate because you are allowing someone else to be included or making it easier for someone else to be included and participate, but you are not taking away their own individual unique experience for themselves. You are just making sure it flows in a way that fits with the system and processes that you have in place. Um, there is also usually a aspect of democratic management where members have a say in governance. That is a key part of democracy. Whereas maybe the leader does make most of the final decisions, but in the democratic system, excuse me for stumbling on my words, the people got to say too. So yeah, if the boss decided something, but all the people know that, yo, this is not working for us, this is terrible, then we can all unite together, make a voice heard, and assuming we're going through the proper channels, and democratic processes that should have been set up for us, but that we have a process we can take to govern our own members. One example of this you may see would be unions, where if a boss puts in a really oppressive rule in a factory, yeah, it's his rule goes, but these workers still are members of a union, so they still have processes they can take, whether that be notifying a union rep or whether it be something more extreme, just saying, hey, we going on strike, but we have our union to protect our jobs. But what's important is that there be processes in place that actually facilitate and serve democratic management. Because without these processes, one, it's an uphill battle. It's just your word versus their word. And really, it becomes more of a negotiation in a democracy. And two, it becomes a negotiation where democracy is on the weaker side of things. And whoever has the authority really has the strength to allow that thing to pass or to shut it down at any moment, which is not really a true democratic process. But when we break it away from those things, we have to have our standards set very clear and maintain why those things exist. It's another thing that comes with democracy is even though we want everybody's voice to be heard, we can't agree with every single person at every single time. There has to be a winner and a loser sometimes. Maybe three people voted for this, but seven voted for the other thing, and you're gonna have three people that didn't get their way. But if the process felt fair, if they still felt included, and if there was still some level of understanding as to how the choice got made, it becomes easier for them to accept. If things are very hidden, if nothing is shown, if yeah, they got a word in, but they couldn't tell how their word translated to the final decision being made, even if it was made with them in mind, it may not go over very well. You may be faced with pushback with people saying, well, all right, but why is it that way? Or hold up, did I get cheated? Did my vote really count? Which is stuff that happens in real life. We saw that in our actual election cycle a few years ago. So a few years ago, where there was a real concern about well, in some circles, but there's not a political conversation. So besides the fact that it is democratic, I don't want to go too deep into that rabbit hole. But we have real conflicts over the legitimacy of our voting. There were recounts in certain spaces. There were extra steps taken to make sure our processes were preserving our democracy. But I will pause there for a moment. And I did say I wanted some feedback. So when it comes to those processes in particular, is anybody able to share any thoughts or experiences on processes or structures that we can bring into our environments to get more democratic outcomes?
I was as I listened to you, Brother Calvin, one of the things I thought was good when you talk about democratic management, that's why cooperatives is such a beautiful choice. cooperatives really embody that democratic is everybody guys it should have a say, their voice should be heard, and it should influence the decision. That's really how it's supposed to go, right? But we know in the US it's really authoritarian, right? Some people even say going towards fashion mode that we're already in it, but really it's an imbalance of power. Whereas a cooperatives, it's a balance of power. It's not just one person, not everybody sharing in the power, and which is why it's empowering. Cooperatives are empowering. I was thinking some good examples you could see this in Baltimore is like Red Emma's, Mara's Kitchen Collective. The food is off the chain. Somebody just introduced that to me.
Yeah.
Right, not far from Penn Station. And also Takar Brothers, another cooperative ice cream. The brothers ice cream off the chain. They in Federal Hill in the market. But one thing that I notice when I visit these cooperatives is that the people just seem to have a better spirit. I don't know what it is. They just seem better spirit. They just nobody's saying they like drudging, like they just oh, I gotta be here today, because that whole owner foundation. I own a piece of this. And so I believe that's where the democratic management really able to see it in cooperatives. And it's demonstrated and it's empowering. And I think it's very good for black folks because it makes us unify, but it brings us empowerment. So yeah, when I just love visiting cooperatives and just it's just a different type of flow, just a different type of empowerment. And if the folks on, if you're able to open it, we're able to help you, assist you in that, it could be very empowering, not just for you, but for the whole family and the community.
Hmm.
That type of management style where really everybody plays a part.
Yeah. I love seeing it. I definitely love seeing it. And love learning about them again, just on the inside and out, because they don't all work the same. And even when I tried to like, incorporate those things into my own environments, I had to learn some of the challenges that come with it. Because when you let everybody's voice get heard, now you're hearing a lot more thoughts and feelings than you might have had to process before. And it has been a constant challenge for me learning and relearning and continuing to grow in terms of how I can effectively support and facilitate the people who place trust in me. Um, and so again, definitely want to hear any thoughts or ideas if you guys have came up with any creative ways as well. Because one of the and I guess to be more specific about the question, one of the risks that I have seen repeatedly when it comes to democratic management is things turning into some sort of popularism where, okay, maybe it's not a top-down structure anymore with just one person ruling everything, but it turned into a popularity contest where it's like, okay, we wanted everybody's voice to be heard, but really there's two or three people that are loud and confident, and there's a lot of people that are trying to be on those people's good side because that's how the vote tends to go. But I've seen different processes implemented to, I guess, take unique approaches to democratic management. And I really don't want to fill in that blank for you. I would love to hear some input if I may. But can you guys share anything that you feel like has made democracy work in a space? Yeah, that's fair. Well, I had to at least ask. I guess I will talk about a few examples then. One example that I saw work well was having people write things down versus say them in loud, or having things be anonymous when they're voting versus it be public. I noticed that something like that contribute to the level of honesty that people show when they're sharing their opinions. If they are in the room and they know like, yeah, I do gotta vote, but my coworker that sit at the desk next to me right there, and if I vote against them, they gonna make my shift a living heck. Then they may not be as honest. Versus if things are completely anonymous and it's truly no pushback, sometimes you may be surprised how open people are. Little things like that. Other things that have helped are keeping that information accessible into the future. The level of accountability that people have towards the things that they say or do, I feel like has also lent to how democratic or non-democratic systems are in the long run. If people feel like what they say they will have to stand on, then they flip flop a little bit less. They stand on that word a little bit more. They think about what they say a little bit more versus spaces where there is no memory and they can say five different things, 5 different days, and it's all treated like it's the first time. Um, Joining these seminars, the other ways that I learn and grow. Some things that are more talkative versus more interactive, just seeing the balances and education is another one that I've learned. I've underrated, as a matter of fact. There are times where I might go out of my way to set up something that's meant to be inclusive or meant to be democratic. But I did not go out. Keep this feeling natural. But oh, there we go. How you doing? Welcome back.
Was that me or was it already said something else?
Now I'm trying to figure out how long were you out? I hope I wasn't talking to myself for too long.
No, no, no. You were out for probably about 3 minutes.
Okay, cool, cool. All right, not too
Yeah.
bad.
When she
Yeah.
get when Tomoko gets back on, I had dirt on my hands when you were asking the last question. I'm in my happy place planting and in class, so I was working on flowers while we were talking. But I wanted to go back to answer your question about democracy in your workspace.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Given, I guess, 30 seconds or so to see if anybody jumps back in, and then I'll go ahead and run through it because I just realized it's also getting close to 12 o'clock. I didn't want to run
Okay,
over too much.
okay, you're doing a great job.
All right, thank you. Thank you. What were
Yeah.
you going to share?
So I had this was what your question was an assignment from my last class. So I was pulling up
Oh,
my
nice.
notes from my last class to say that the way that what we I've been working on making sure that the decisions of the group inform my decisions moving forward. Um we've been using tools to help the staff see their own in areas that they could grow, and it's been making them more accountable to their own growth. So, and I feel like when things are based on with children, let's just say, for instance, when things are based on research and data, you can't argue some things, right? So if their outcomes on their assessments or something is not reflecting the growth of everybody, then they take ownership in that understanding of why they're doing what they're doing. um and then I also had um in our space, like whenever we have family engagement nights, the way that we plan our next one is having the parents decide what it is they want to do next, right? Like instead of us just checking the blocks. And one of the things I just want to share that I learned in this process was I had all of these ideas based on the research when I went into these communities of what I was bringing, right? Instead of what the community already had and what things I could tap in. So leading from a democracy standpoint allows me to be able to see what it is that the families need and better support their needs instead of what the data shows. So when we first got there, we said the data show that these people don't own houses. They the highest level of education is this, and so we just started bringing all of those things, not even considering that wasn't the first thing those people needed. That was just what the data said. And there was a older lady that came to me one day. She came to one of my events and she was the only one. She was like, "Baby girl, you know why nobody here?" And she said, "Because you're not worried about what they need. You got to find out what people need, not what you want to give them." And after that, we started asking the question and we have a full house all the time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that matters. That matters a lot. Because that's kind of what I was hitting at. Like, we can design a system to be democratic, but we don't always know how people's voices are getting included, especially in the community work. Like, that one can be tough. Like, some people don't always want to participate in surveys. Sometimes you gotta pop up on them at an event or in their community, at the market or the laundromat if you really want to learn how they feeling.
The barbershop.
Yep, yeah. Have you found any ways that are more effective than others? Like, because the community space that's a unique space. Because you're dealing with just people in their world, not people coming into your job or whatever. But have you found ways that work better with getting people to open up or kind of share how they feel about things?
So I think it really takes time and trust, right? Like it's not an overnight process. And what I've learned too, it's so much wisdom in a older Black woman, right? So my older teacher, like I could hire people across the board that that fit the academic spaces for early childhood education. But in order to really develop our communities, you need that one big mama that has been through so many things. And I know that as evidence is my big mama gets all of the information. I pass my families every day. I give them a hug, I give them love, but there's some disconnect that they have with me versus what they have with. So I know when somebody's lights are cut off, when they have a different, and maybe it's a term for this. Maybe Tomoko. I'm sorry.
Comico. It's like a
Tomoko.
song.
Okay, Tomoko can help me, process this. But they're always talking to my elder staff. That's how I know that they need help, right? And then I
Mhm.
can go and get the help for them that my
Mhm.
big mama might can't find. But it's that whole dynamic. In order to keep it working, I need big mama there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We grew up on Big Mamas. They the glue. Soul Food. Okay, the movie. Come on now, that's real. And
Yeah.
it makes us feel comfortable. It's like eating a pot of beans, warm beans and some cornbread. We need that. We feel that. So the Big Mom. It's funny you say because I was just thinking that I went to this law conference, but it was mostly white folks there. But it has to do with how America been set up. It's a black sister. She was the one kind of facilitating, leading the questions and the dialogue. Mostly all white lawyers in there, and I always show my whole full black African woman self in whatever space I'm in. Okay, they be like, "Dad, who let her?" And they be like, "Oh, okay, we hear you." But anyway, and so as she facilitating with all these various white folks and directing them, and they felt comfort. And I said, just what you said something you just said. I said, you know what? She their big mama. She comfort. She don't realize the role underneath the dynamics of what's going on. But that's how come she told me, she said, I've been doing this 15 years. And I was like, to myself, I said, that's why. That is powerful as I'm talking out loud. And you just said that. But that is what I remember, who was that? They said, Oprah Winfrey said, somebody said, one of the actors told Oprah Winfrey years ago, don't lose weight. They said, because the white they like you, how you are, you feel comforting. The way she was big and that felt comforting to them. And so this whole big mama thing, sis, all right, come through. We about to write a book on this, right? Okay.
Right. I feel it.
Whoa,
And
whoa,
the reason I mentioned the academic piece is because childcare, the
yeah,
way that you get rated on quality, right, is
yeah,
if you have people with degrees. Big Mama don't have a degree, right? So I always
yeah,
have to layer people, right? So
yeah.
I gotta have the degree teacher, but I can't get rid of Big Mama because the
That's
degree
right.
teacher isn't enough, right? She a
Hey,
young woman that was blessed and privileged not to have any of the experiences that the people we serving, right?
right.
And
That's right.
she got the academic because life was free enough for her to be able to just go and focus on that. Where
Come on
all
now.
of these brilliant individuals, they have it, but there was too many barriers in their road to get in there, right? And
Yeah.
so Big Mama understand both sides, right?
Yes.
but they're doing away with big mamas and early child care because they don't have the degree. So that's my fight right now, right? I'm always
But that's
making sure.
but that's smart leadership you displaying though. You
Right.
know the people you need and the roles you need to make this stuff work and grow and be. That's very good, smart. That's smart leadership you got going on. You understand your people and what they need. Most people don't even pay attention. They want, but that's what the lady told you at the beginning. Not ain't about what you want, it's what we want. And you got that message. You got the assignment. And you done did the homework and you achieving it. Very smart leadership.
Okay.
Mm.
Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.
We all
Unfortunately, when
about
I
to go
got
ahead
kicked
dinner.
out, nah, this was cool. Oh, and Miss Tamiko, just so you know where we're at.
Tomiko.
Tomiko,
Tommy.
I'm
Take a
sorry.
Tom. Mm-hmm.
Tomiko.
Mm-hmm.
She was answering the question on just sharing about processes that make spaces more democratic.
Oh yeah,
Um,
she just shared one. Beautiful, very smart leadership. I could see that, hear
mhm,
that right away. Yes.
mhm. Unfortunately, the call had dropped off for a minute, and I don't have the share permissions anymore, so I can't put the slideshow back up. But thankfully,
Okay.
we were right near the end, and we're right near the end of our time as well.
Yes.
The last slide was really just a clothing slide, and it kind of left space for some clothing thoughts. But I'll read that one out to you guys.
Yeah.
Um, this has been our seminar on people, culture, and democratic management. When those things are handled with care and consistency, our organizations don't just function, they grow leaders, they build stability, and they create environments where people can actually thrive, where people, culture, and democratic management align, where we're not building just stable organizations, but we have a true economic democracy. So I hope in this call today that I was able to get through some of those points and really make it clear why I value democratic management, the importance of leadership, even in a democratic system, and
Mm-hmm.
how important our environment is and our culture is to those spaces that we're creating. Um, but I would love to hear before we wrap up if you guys had any major takeaways, any things that stuck strongly with you that you may pass forward, or just any thoughts for me as a speaker.
Hands down, I'm gonna put them in order. The class was wonderful, but hands down, learning about Murray and Wilson's poem
That
will
poem
be
was
number one for me.
nice.
Yeah. She said hands down. Okay.
And the class was amazing. My other takeaway is um just keep collaborating.
Yeah.
And this was definitely divine for me to be in this space. This is what I feel like I've been attracting this. I'm here now, and it's a good
Beautiful.
reflection of what's happening on the inside of me to be able to be in space with you all. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to have arrived to this space to be able to share space with you all.
And
Understood. And
and
you. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
even since where you are, you know how you sit, and you got the green surrounding you. I see the orange. You got the blue. You talking about chakra alignment is how you going towards, and when your chakras are aligned, you are in balance, and the world is your footstool. You hear
Mm.
me? You command the universe to give you everything you need. That orange, that's our sacred chakra. That's where our creativity coming from. Who we are, how you saying, how you think, who your people are. Creativity, your brain is expanding. That green is life. That's that heart chakra. My heart is open, but my heart is also firm in what I see. It's about love. Love is the highest vibration. That can make the world crack open, but they say death can't even stop it. So you are coming into chakra alignment, which is us as an African people, which means we are in line with the world, the universe, the ocean, the ground, the sea, the animals. We spin, it spins. You spin, everything spins around you. They are orbiting you. You are the planet that we are spinning around, vibrating upon. So very proud of you, sister, work you're doing. Stay on path, believe in self, be true to self, and don't let no one knock you off the throne. And you better not never come off that throne. Period.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Thank you. And you mentioned you're based in Baltimore. What is your business? Can we support or find you online or anything?
Sure. So we're rebranding our website right now because we just got, oh, well, we're right there to get accredited. So childcare is rated on a European standard of 1 through 5, which makes it really challenging to get to that 5 because, again, you have to have quality teachers by their quality standard, right? So we're level 4 now, which is a big deal,
Okay.
means we get an increase on subsidy, all of those kind of things. But our goal is to get to a level 5 and by August. So that's what we're working diligently on because that will say we're providing the quality. And for me, that doesn't rate our quality. Like that will mean we went through a lot of challenges to be able to get there. And that's a whole nother part of my advocacy work in the future. Like all of the funding that's created for early childhood development is researched on children that I serve, right? But that's
Mhm.
not where the money gets allocated. There's so many barriers and bureaucracy in between that capturing that data, using our children to create that data and then actually distributing the money to those same areas. It sounds like a no-brainer that the money, you research the children, then you make sure they get the money. They research the children and then they make you apply, knowing that most of the providers in these communities don't have access to that capacity of grant writing, a time commitment. Like they're doing everything. They don't have 25 executives, writing grants in this department, HR in this part. They're everything, right? So to be able to write at that grant level is ridiculous. But anyway, so the way that I would like you to answer your question, the way that I would like support is in the future, the near future, right? So that's the backstory of that. But I wanted to be able to get to a level 5 first before I started making noise about how that money is not allocated. Because what it took for me to be able to get access to this money meant I had to go so many other places that is unrealistic for and the only people that are impacted by that are the children, right? Because they're not getting the support. These are well-intended, passionate people without the resources to develop children the way that brain development works, right? Like it's just, you don't have it. And so it's just another systemic thing that's in course. So once we get to a level 5, which will be like August-ish, right? We're going to use their money. We're going to show them, look, we could do it too. But I want to show how hard it was to get to the money that we like like, but I had to do it to, I didn't want to
No,
be fighting
I get
this
what you're
fight from
saying.
down at the level that they say that we can't, that is the base level for childcare. So I needed to get to their level to be able to show we can do this. We just don't have the supports, right? Like so my help that I need is after I'm accredited in August because I want to be able to make sure all of that funding that's happening for those children are really going to those children that they're researching.
Got you.
And I
Thank
know
you for
that
that.
there was 25 ways that they could have gave us access to it without me having to go. This has been 10 years I've been trying to get this same money. So right.
Got you. Well, please keep us informed as you do that, because yeah, they make it sound like we can just go out there and pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, but they don't necessarily make those steps easy
Right.
for us. But when the slides come around, my email should be on there, my phone number should
I,
be on there.
I
Please
have a
shoot me
question
an
for you, brother
email.
Kevin, before you get off.
Yes.
So are you a trainer? You have a training company? What's your organization? Mm.
Um, I guess I'm a serial entrepreneur myself.
Oh, I don't like that word, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, how else do I describe that? I've been a multi-time business owner. I've owned my own
Okay.
entities, I've partnered
Okay.
with others, and I've served as
Okay.
an operator. But
Okay.
right now, when it comes to the community work, my
Uh-huh.
primary vehicle is again Northwest Wellness Project. I serve
Yeah.
as the program director for that agency.
Okay.
So I help connect us with partner facilitators, other organizations or individuals from the Baltimore
Mm.
space who may come and do group sessions with us, or we collaborate on
Okay.
things for our youth. And I
Mm.
do administrative things, data management things, things like that. But
Okay.
in my own entity.
Yeah, what do you want to be
I
when you grow up?
I have turned myself as a community consultant.
Okay, beautiful.
And I call myself that because I like to leverage any and all of my skills and knowledge to
Uh-huh.
support other community organizations. In particular, I specialize in operations, in
Uh-huh.
technology, and in
Uh-huh.
mental health because that is where my background is.
Okay,
Yeah.
because reason I was asking, because I listened, you did a very good job today. And you got a lot of room for phenomenal growth. Because one of the things that's real big on the continent, Mama Africa, is they need a lot of skill training development. You know, the youth in Black communities is always our highest population, but in Africa, I think over 70% of them are like under 18 or something. They're like, what do we do all these young people and no jobs? So a big thing that is really big over there is training and skills development. You could do that virtually. So
Oh,
as I was watching you, I was thinking about one of the sisters and different who works with our African folks, our African youth, and they really trying to get their own in Africa. There's a lot popping off in Africa with the youth, so much talent. But the skills and training workshops are good, and I'm a want to connect you. That might be an
please.
opportunity.
Please do. I'm trying to get that direction.
And
As
you
I
should
saw,
think
yeah, yeah,
about
yeah.
expanding, maybe get maybe in the future, maybe 1 to 2 extra people as you grow into your community consultancy, where you actually become your own organization, a training organization, for those developing entrepreneurs, developing youth that's going into the business landscape.
Got you. Now that is a long-term goal of mine. So I've
Mhm.
developed my own curriculum.
Very
Um,
good.
and my goal was to get the experience so I can build the curriculum, and then the
Yeah,
curriculum can teach even further than I can be available.
very
Um,
good.
and so I'm
Hmm.
at that space now where I have structured workshops, I have structured curriculums, but
Yeah.
now I have to connect more to different communities so I can
Hmm.
get the exposure and experience, taking this knowledge and seeing how it relates in different communities and refining
Yeah.
it, get more
Do you have
people.
your passport?
Working on it, in progress.
Get your passport. Catch up. This is
Okay. Yes.
2026.
Yes,
Sis, you got your
ma'am.
passport? I
Absolutely.
know that's right. You on point. All right, goddess. Calvin, get your passport. Let's keep up.
Absolutely.
All right, opportunity might come through. You gotta be ready, so you ain't getting ready. You got me, bro? You gotta
Yes.
be ready, so you ain't getting ready. You never know when the opportunity may
Tamako,
come.
Tamako,
Yes, ma'am.
are you on all of these with us, or is this our only time?
No, board members do not do this. I'm a new board member, so I'm
Oh
kind of
wow. Well,
I'm kind of
thank
shaking it up a little
you.
bit. They like, who you gonna let in here, Ron? Like, what? Because when he first asked me, I'm like, you sure you want me? He was like, yes, we need you. I'm like, you.